Ahead of his All Elite Wrestling return this Saturday night on the debut episode of Collision, CM Punk would speak with ESPN's Mark Raimondi in an interview that is sure to cause a stir heading into the show. For the first time since the AEW All-Out Media Scrum and subsequent backstage brawl with the Elite, the Second City Saint has spoken in detail on his side of the story and what led up to the events on that now infamous September night. Regarding the torn tricep injury that was sustained at the pay-per-view, Punk would joke of how it's always been the dumb things that get you hurt. This in reference to the fairly basic dive to the outside that caused a tear in his match with Jon Moxley, and he would say, fall off a 15-foot ladder through a table and you're fine, and you're running 6 miles the next day and you're in the gym. And then it's just always the dumb little things, like some routine thing that I've done 1,000 times in my career and it injures you. And then just the mental aspect of this recovery, it has not been easy. Luckily, I've got a really good support system, my wife AJ Lee and dog Larry, and I've got great friends and a super great rehab team that was able to get me back this quickly, even though it feels like it was 12 years ago. While CM Punk would win the AEW World Championship from Moxley that night, the interview would then turn to the first time he picked up the belt at Double or Nothing 2022 and his match with Hangman Adam Page. Hangman was of course one of the main topics of the all-out media scrum, with Punk claiming that he went into business for himself in the lead up to the title match. This when the Cowboy suggested that he was responsible for getting Colt Cabana removed from All Elite Wrestling. This despite claims from Tony Khan that Punk had nothing to do with the decision to move Cabana to Ring of Honor. Per ESPN sources, others in the company, including the Elite, believe Punk was responsible for this happening. The accusations stem from Colt and Punk's very public falling out many years ago, with the two battling a defamation case together against WWE, with this eventually leading to Colt suing Punk and Punk countersuing, leaving their friendship in the dust. The ESPN article notes that both Punk and Hangman had discussed what they were going to say during that promo in the back beforehand, much like he had done in the past during segments with MJF and Eddie Kingston, but once the two men got to the ring, Punk claims that Page strayed away from what they discussed, with this being the first public sign of issues between the Elite and the CM Punk camps. CM Punk would then detail how the mood would change during the title match itself, this when Hangman struck him in the face during an exchange of chops, and he would note, and I proceed to have what I think is a garbage match because I'm trying to protect myself on stuff instead of actually just working and trying to put on the best performance I can. I'm keeping an eye out. He chopped me in the mouth one time and I'm just like, okay, did he do that on purpose? You chipped my tooth and I'm like, alright, should I give him a receipt? It changes the dynamic. It poisoned everything for me and it made it all really, really ugly, and that was what set all of this off. And here we are over a year later and ain't shit been done about it. Punk would then clarify that he has no relationship with Colt and that he has never once called for Tony Khan to take away his or anybody else's job. ESPN would then reveal that both Khan and Page were unavailable for comment on the matter, and that Cabana responded by telling them everything should go through AEW when asked for comment. The Elite, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks also denied to comment via their agent Barry Bloom. Punk would then go on to detail the aftermath of the media scrum, which saw him rip into the Elite and Colt Cabana, with him feeling regret for his actions that night, and he would say, the first thing I said to Tony when I sat down with him and spoke to him after it was, man, I'm really sorry I put you in that position. I apologize for the scrum. But when you've watched that scrum, you're looking at a very, very frustrated guy who had told people. That's not the first time he heard all that. It's not the first time lawyers were told all that. And I was just looking for something to be done and nothing got done. So if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. And I just didn't approach it in the right manner, but tension was high. I was very, very pissed. I pretty much knew that I had just injured myself again. I was hurt and I was disappointed. Yeah, it's very easy for me to say I regret that and I handled it the wrong way, 100%. The scrum would then be followed by a real-life backstage fight involving CM Punk and Ace Steel on one side, with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega on the other, this after the latter reportedly entered Punk's locker room. Punk would then add that what happened is pretty normal in sports, revealing his attitude towards the situation, and said, I don't think what happened was a big deal. This has happened in the last 10 months in hockey, in basketball, in baseball, in just about every sport. And it's covered and it's gone the next day. I think because I have injured my tricep and I've been out for so long, I think it's been exacerbated. I think it's been exacerbated by people spreading lies about the whole thing, and when in reality, my attitude is, well, happens. Now we all got to roll in the fucking mud, and that never should have happened and has never been course corrected. So I understand people want to say that, oh man, Punk is a dick. Well, yeah, because I'm defending myself, and I will always defend myself. I'm open to have a full-blown sit down, powwow discussion with everybody about it, but it hasn't happened yet, and it's not because of my lack of trying. It was then noted that Punk has not spoken to the Bucks or Omega since the incident that has been dubbed as Brawl Out, and when he did reach out, he received a message from lawyers saying, do not contact this person. Punk added that he isn't sure if this came at the request of legal representatives of the Elite or a third party. There was a very interesting section of the article that details the possibility of an Elite versus CM Punk feud, and it reads, the pro wrestling industry has a history of leveraging real-life events and shaping them into future storylines, some of which have been very lucrative. Blending reality and fiction has been one of the art's core tenets, essentially a simulated sporting event or fight. Punk, though, said that he had been told that using this saga on television and spinning it into some matches that would undoubtedly draw some money won't happen. Punk feels that the heat was started in spring 2022, and he feels that they did used to have a strong relationship, including approaching Omega to ensure nothing Punk was doing in his matches would infringe on what spots Omega had planned, as well as checking in on Page when he was sick with COVID. His attention would then turn to the business at hand and the opportunity the upcoming AEW Collision will provide for talent on the roster, with 2 more hours of primetime television being added to the schedule, and he would say, with more TV time, you're only going to see guys like Hobbs and Starks, people who I think have the potential to do what an MJF, current AEW champion, has done with his television time, but they haven't been able to be positioned because a guy like MJF gets a big lion's share of television time because he earned it. We just need to do a better job of spotlighting so many different guys, and this is, for a lot of guys, sink or swim. Now it's just like, well, now's the time. You're going to have to really bust your ass and prove why we're giving you this spotlight and this TV time. Saturday nights will likely prove a difficult challenge ratings-wise, although it provides an opportunity to sell more tickets than during the week, and Punk would add, if I'm the poster boy, top guy, whatever, this is what people dream about. You get put in a position like this and can't take the negative criticism. Personally, I look at it like a challenge, but as far as ticket sales for a Saturday night compare and contrast, I think it's a lot easier to move a Saturday night ticket to a live event than it is a workday on a Wednesday, so there's positives and negatives, you know what I mean? And I don't look at the negatives as these huge detrimental things. As for if he ever considered walking away from AEW due to the recent events, Punk would note that it was never a serious thought, despite some brief doubts, and he would add, I certainly had some low moments, and I won't rule out in those fleeting moments where I just say, f this, whatever, but I don't ever think it was a serious intention to say that I'm done. There's still work to do, and I think I'm excited about a lot of stuff that's coming up, so just to throw the baby out with the bathwater just because of a little boo-boo, I think would be a little silly. Fans now wait to find out exactly what CM Punk meant on this week's episode of AEW Dynamite, where he said, I won't know what I'm going to do or say until I have that microphone in my hand. I have a lot of things to get off my chest. Well, we don't have long until we find out. And before you go, make sure you check out who the surprise could be at the debut episode of AEW Collision.